I don't know, but I do know we're live.
Oh,
We're live here on the Mattriarchy on a Wednesday, and we're here to talk about Superman. So I'll tell you what, though, before we get to talk about Superman, I want to say that recently, I think I may have mentioned on stream that I picked up the trade of the second Shade series, and read that thing, just consumed the entire thing. And it spun out of the events in the Shade miniseries, or the maxi series was 12 issue, spun out of some events in Justice League. So I've been going back and picking up some Justice League trades that James Robinson wrote. And man, 2011 was a decent year for comics. Why did they screw it up?
Because my answer is not going to be 9/11 this time, but it is going to be the Obama administration. So I think that was the last time, because that was when I think the last time comics were allowed to be fun was around 2012, and somewhere after Avengers versus X-Men, it was like no, all comics must now be agitprop.
Yeah, it's crazy, right?
Was that around the time that Rebirth had happened?
No, it was just before. 2012 was the year they did the New 52, and Marvel did All New, All Different. Those kind of happened at the same time.
All New, All Different, I think, happened right after Avengers versus X-Men.
Yeah,
I jumped. That's when I actually kind of started collecting for a bit. I'd never collected before, and I jumped on with Avengers versus X-Men, which plenty of things to talk about with that comic book series, but the initial pitch for it was every fanboy's wet dream, which is all the characters you love, we're going to make them fight like action figures. And I'm on board.
For me, that's never been like my dream. It's just like, man, it's just like, I don't like professional wrestling. Why would I want my comics to look like professional wrestling?
I can't remember who it was who said, I miss the days when superheroes fought supervillains and not just other superheroes.
By the way, that's also just, wrestling under it. Just the heels and the baby faces are just different.
Yeah. Fair enough. I mean, you can make an argument about that. I can't, legitimate. Except the fact that anyway, we don't need to get into that today because we're here not to talk about that. I just wanted to shout out James Robinson's stuff. I've been really appreciating it. So, and wanted to come on and talk about not James Robinson, but Superman, number six by oh man, help me out, Twitless. My brain's escaping my head.
All right, what?
Who wrote the comic?
Who wrote the comic we read for today? Come on,
Williamson. It's Williamson.
Josh Williamson.
It used to be Campbell who was doing the art, but this is the first issue that the art duties have changed. Campbell did a cover, but I don't know if he couldn't. This is where I'd love to hear more about the inside baseball on this. I've not looked it up, but I wonder if it's a case of either he moved to a different book or couldn't keep up with the release schedule, because he did a cover for issue 6, but Campbell is no longer the main artist for the book, as far as I can tell.
Well, yeah, and it was, I tell you what, even on the first page, which I don't know if we want to get into, when we left last time, we didn't mention how the book ended.
That's right. Yeah.
Semi-regular viewer, she doesn't always watch live anymore, but Evie bought the trade and was talking about it in their Discord server. So she's right ahead of what I have.
See, but do you see how, okay, grassroots, word of mouth, someone says, you know what? People keep talking about this thing. I want to read it. This is the lifeblood of comics. This is why I do what I do. I just hope that one day I'm doing it about my own books as well. But I love this. It's like, so you read a book, you talk about it, someone else says, you know what, I'm going to read that. Thank you, Evie.
Yeah, for sure. So hopefully, if she makes it live today, because she went back and she started went back and was like was watching our old stuff, several of the ones in the series, and then she went out and bought the trade. I was like, all right. So hopefully that's fun. But even let's get that first page up. Where we left off last time is that Superman had because of the Silver Banshee and because of Doc Farm and Mr. Grafter the other way around, can't remember what it is. Weird Al and his Kim brother, they move the pieces around so that Superman's lost some of his super hearing, and he can only hear things in his immediate vicinity, and he can listen to normal conversations and whatever else. And so he did not hear from across town Lex Luthor getting stabbed, just straight up prison shanked in like one of the most amazingly graphic like stabbings I've ever seen.
It was so brutal the whole time. I was picturing it happening in slow motion with Sarah McLachlan singing in the background.
The eyes of an angel.
So let me say that this is actually a nice scene because, or the scene of him getting stabbed, because as much as you're kind of feeling a little bit of empathy for him as a character, maybe rooting for him a little bit, Lex has done enough bad stuff that you're like, yeah, probably had it coming at some point.
Well, so what's great too is like one of the doctors here in the ambulance is just like, shouldn't we just like let him die? And the other doctor's like, get out. Hippocratic oath, dude.
Right. But at least in terms of the audience, where it's like, if you've ever been like, this guy deserves to get prison shanked, well, here you go. There's some comeuppance there. So it's nice because again, it's one of those moments where you can kind of feel both sides of this, the compassion and the yep, you've had this, you arrogant son of a gun, you have had this kind of a thing coming for a while.
Absolutely. So Lex gets straight up shanked, and he's driven to the hospital, and then Superman. Oh, and this is a crazy thing. Then you jump to a scene where Superman is apprehending these bank robbers, and it's pretty standard fare as far as Superman stories go. But the thing I think is most remarkable, and are we on? Let's see here. It's page that I think is really telling. Well, side note, you get to the second 2-page spread, and it's just a close-up of Superman. But the thing that I noticed on the first page and the second page that really stuck out is the change in palette. The style was a little different, but the palette was different too. Mm-hmm. It's equally bright, but it's like blue shifted. And I'm not sure if that was intentional or if they just got a different colorist on top of getting a different like pencil artist or what the situation was. But it definitely, the colors jumped out to me as just being so stark from the previous issues. And not bad. It's all top tier quality stuff as far as I can see with it. But it really was just like, well, this is a different feel to it.
Yeah, I don't put the cover up. I might be able to analyze the difference.
I think the easiest thing to do is to put up the original cover for issue 1, is where you see the strongest difference. So give me a second. I'll pull that up. We can have some good old-fashioned dead air here. Okay.
There we go. That's while we're there, well, usually it's great. We may be able to. What you guys do to the chat? It's empty. I don't know, Ed Bing. I think we've scared everybody off the last 6 months.
I was going to say Kryptonite is my answer, but
Kryptonite. I love going with Kryptonite. That is funny. That is funny.
So this one might be going too far in the other direction, but that's this is the artwork we're used to seeing. So there's definitely
some heavy external lighting though. I'd like to see just a kind of average, him against a blue sky.
Well, and I think that's actually a big part of it. I think the previous coloring did have more oranges and less blues. And I think that maybe that's a big part of the difference there. So, but I don't know though.
We need a picture of him in like Superman Incorporated or whatever it's called.
Somebody here. Okay, this is a totally off subject. This is worse than a Skyrim stream run by an 11-year-old. Did somebody offend the chat? Was it Scott Pilgrim? I don't know. I'm sure I've offended everybody at some point. I know I've offended the panel a couple times.
That's okay. So anyway, let's jump back into.
Let's get back to the story. It's on the getting into that after that. Oh my goodness.
So you said you had something you wanted to say about the bank robbery scene?
I want to find the page. Okay, it's I think page 4. It's the next page after that first double page spread with Superman's face on it. That next page, where there's a guy with the gun that doesn't exist.
The space gun.
The space gun.
This is straight out of like Superman, like the animated series, which of course is always going to appeal to me.
So there are two issues that I have with this page. One is that he's shooting bullets that they're not bullets. They're like the whole shell, right? The whole casing and everything is flying through the air. So Space Gun is just catapulting unfired bullets back.
I got it pulled up for you. Share screen.
And oh, there you go. I'm sorry. I was looking there.
It's the sucker.
It's the whole bullet. Gunpowder never discharges. It's just like the.
Oh, you're right. Okay, that's just the artist. Not that's a common mistake.
Not well, and then so this is happening, but that's not the first thing I noticed. The first thing I noticed is that he's using heat vision to melt these bullets, right? But I'm like, okay, so you're gonna have like liquid lead pouring back into the. So maybe somebody's just gonna get splattered with lead that's going like hundreds of miles an hour or whatever a bullet fires.
Basically napalm.
Yeah, basically napalm, but it's metal. They're just gonna like melt flesh and it'll be great. It'll be great.
Okay, wait, hold on. If it's his heat vision, then you know that immediately after this, it vaporized into plasma state and just poofed.
Yeah, there you go. That's the way out of it. Is he's just evaporating them with his eyes, right? But that's nothing.
And I know.
But the gunpowder should still be exploding, right?
Unless it's evaporating so fast. I don't know.
So fast that it's entirely sublimating.
So
and
I think
we'll let it pass, but
that would basically mean a wave of energy the size of a city block would eviscerate everything.
So
we need to let it slide though, because we know that's not what was intended. This is just city folk being city folk.
Yeah.
Get out to the gun range, people. And
so let me say, I think what Williamson's attempting here. I'm glad you brought this up. I think
Nate just got the comment right there.
I think what he's attempting, because Williamson is trying to do old but fresh. So in my mind, if I'm thinking like Williamson, he's like, okay, how many times has Superman stopped the bullets with his hands? What's another one of his powers we can put in this situation? And he pulled the heat vision. Now, the answer to the question here isn't, I like the idea what he's going for. Use a different power set, as opposed to doing the exact same shot you're used to seeing. Again, this goes to a problem that I noticed. I think this issue needed another, not a major editing pass, but I think it needed a minor editing pass. Because this is one of the first, I'm glad you brought this up. As a minor editing pass, all you would need to do here is go, hey Josh, I like that you're trying to do using a different power. The lazy heat vision might cause more problems than another thing. How about he uses his freeze breath instead? So he uses a different power we're not used to seeing as often dealing with bullets, but as opposed to using heat around incendiary things, he uses the opposite element, which would be cold, which would in fact inert them in midair. And it's like, you still have the same effect of him doing something different with his powers as opposed to the normal stuff we're used to seeing. And it avoids the problems of that we're noticing. The artist would have still goofed by putting full bullets in, but we wouldn't have that minor plot hole.
Well, and at the very least, the Goodnicks in play have not etched their bullets with thoughts and prayers. So at least we have that going for us on the page.
No, but I'm glad you bring that up because, like I said, I think that one of the problems I had with this issue is that I feel like Williamson might be, and this is something as a writer, the faster you go at anything really, but in writing especially, if you're going too fast with those ideas, you miss these hiccups, and hiccups are going to happen in writing. But I think good editing is where you catch some of these and then make little minor tweaks so that you have fewer hiccups. So it's a minor hiccup, but fair thing to point out.
Another thing that I want to go ahead and take the time to point out, just because I'm being a little petty, was that these bullets look like they're position like handgun bullets for a semi-automatic.
They should be rifle, is what you're saying?
Yeah, they should be
rounds?
rifle bullets, rifle rounds, not handgun rounds. But here we go. Artists requiring no guns. They fight with pencil crossbows anyway.
What I want to know is
I've been in those art departments. I've seen it happen.
What is this special ammo that comes out of the barrel at an angle to the barrel, makes a 72-degree turn?
No, that's
another.
No, that's fine. That's it being. That's, I think, it apparently being a space gun.
Well, and I actually think that the issue that we're looking at with those is that's supposed to be like that the gun, like the you'd see the flare spin because the gun is in motion. So the muzzle flash is blurred, and it gets given the illusion of motion through because the gun is moving. It's not just he's holding a boom boom boom, it's that he's pulled it out and is like moving, like jerking it up. So
that is an unfortunate way to draw that.
Yeah,
it's very artsy. I mean, I like the look of it, but I'm just like, what the heck is this?
That's immediately what I took from it, is that we're looking at a gun in motion. But then I was just like, nah, see, that's not how bullets work.
I'm fine. Because it's a space gun, it's clearly not a real weapon. I'm okay with it having like weird curving bullets. That's fine because it's a space gun, and if you're shooting bullets around Superman, you probably want to have a gun that doesn't act normal anyway.
That's probably fair.
So, I mean that is okay.
But if you're gonna do that, and here's what the editor could have done was just say, why not make it a laser gun, and then Superman can do the old laser against laser explosion thing.
Well, I think that one of the things that Twitless is getting at is we're not looking for the same old thing. So the fact
he only has 2 panels to resolve it, so it has to be something that's not going to take a lot of time because this scene is meant to keep moving. So
yes,
I think you could do cold breath in 2 panels, and and you could literally just replace those 2, and then he's freezing them, and then you're good to go.
So the next thing I want to point out about the scene is the next page, because this scene is only 3 pages. Well, it's 4 with a double page spread, but it's really short. And so here Superman drops off the bad guys. He throws them out of the thing, and before anything else happens, the cops are trying to talk to him, and he's gone. Superman is gone, and I think that that's so poignant. Because just like the I don't remember the chief's name here, but he's like, ever since Luthor got stabbed, Superman's been in a weird headspace.
Yeah.
Right. And that, like, if you didn't pick up issue 5, right, and you just started with issue 6, with this one like brief scene, you have enough to understand the rest of Superman's motivations in the entire book. And I think they did it. One of the things we have been talking about over on in Evie's Discord channel for the last 2 weeks about how comics aren't written in a way that you can pick up in the middle of them. You know, like, why do you, the benefit of picking up the trade is because, like, if you're just picking them off the shelf and you miss issue 1 or whatever, the start of the storyline, you're so lost you'll never catch up. And comics always used to be written with every comic is somebody's first comic idea, so you'd have ways of feeding those pertinent details into conversations or into flashbacks or into news reports or whatever in a way that would key you in. And Williamson does that on this page. And I was just like, ooh, tasty. I loved it. So that was how I took it on there. I really enjoyed it. So
yeah, I think these are some of the strengths that Williamson has, because he knows he's writing this book that's very normie friendly, I think. And so I think he's writing in a normie friendly way, and those are some of the strengths he brings to the table. I like that. So like I said, there's definitely some things to critique in this issue, but there's definitely, I think, some of his strong points in there as well. So the basic pitch here is that Lex Luthor has been stabbed, and so that we've got that as a big thing to deal with. And then the big thing here is there's always looming issues with Supercorp, right? That's the other one of the big major plot points here. Is Lex Luthor has ceded control of LexCorp and tried to almost by blackmail. Actually, no, it was blackmail. Blackmailed Superman into assuming control of his own company. And so
there's some great moments when you get to Supercore, but I don't want to miss out on the next scene that we have, which is the touch base into the Daily Planet like mini story in the background. Okay. And Lois, for those of you who haven't caught on or whatever, Lois is now the editor-in-chief of the Daily Planet. And she kind of hates the job because it's she's not being a reporter.
It is meant to be kind of temporary. I think they keep saying until Perry gets back. So there isn't this idea necessarily that like she's permanently replacing him, but she's replacing him for now. And and as Hutch mentioned, if anyone was going to be a candidate for a replacement, a temporary or maybe even otherwise, Lois Lane's attitude is a good natural fit for being bossy. Right. So it feels fairly natural.
Yes. Well, and the thing is, and she's shown herself as being super capable. And so one of the things that is great about this scene, and Hutch has joined us. Thanks for coming, Hutch.
Hey.
One of the great things about this next scene is the fact that Lois is just shown having to deal with all the stuff she doesn't like about being editor, right? And once again, in one page, like you get this frustration at her position, but also her competence, right? She seems like she's being like not in place, but Clark shows up and she explains everything that has to be done. So she clearly has an understanding of what needs to happen and what's going to happen and how she's going to accomplish those sorts of things. And so she's definitely the person for the job. But she's it's also fun for me thinking back on all the stories that it was Lois putting all that pressure on Perry. Yeah. And now that other people are coming to her in the same way, that was pretty great. Yeah. And one of the best lines on this page for me was that, I just looked at Livewire's last report and there's so many typos, I thought you typed it.
Yeah. Continuing the gag from the Superman movies that she's a bad speller.
Yeah.
Did you already discuss why is she employing Livewire? Do you know that?
There was a slight mention in one of the other things that Livewire has a huge internet fandom that's up there, that she's done her own podcasting and was super successful. So yeah. I think the idea was that they brought her on so they could capitalize on it, and also so that Livewire would have less cause.
So this is I can answer this question. This is because Superman Annual 2023 is the issue that is right before this one technically in order, and I think we're gonna maybe we'll try to catch up with that one when we touch on issue 7 next week. We could probably do them both at once. Superman Annual 2023 has a moment where Lois Lane basically she doesn't come right out and say it, but when you put the pieces together, she and Livewire talk to each other in prison, and Lois Lane visits Livewire in prison. Some stuff happens, and then she basically kind of offers her the gig, essentially. Okay. So there is a continuity point there.
Okay.
But it's covered in the annual, so it's something that's you kind of have to.
Yeah, it is kind of weird. Are they still a paper? Is the Daily Planet still a paper? I mean, I think we just accept that any good newspaper can still function as a media organization. That you're still researching news, you're just offering it in a different format. Although papers are folding all the time. They just announced another one is going away. So I mean, don't know. They haven't really made it work for the 21st century, but it shouldn't be impossible,
Honestly, the most unrealistic thing any superhero comic has ever done is portray a major news source as reliable.
Yeah. Do you remember the classic episode where the classic issue where Jerry White is kidnapped and they demand that Perry White lie and do a retraction and say that say a lie on his paper, and he just can't bring himself to do it? And it's is there any newsman in America left who's like that? you know, I'm bound by a sacred trust by the public, and it's like, you know, what century is he from?
Interestingly enough, one thing that always stuck out at me about it was Batman versus Superman, was that Perry White is telling him like no one cares about Batman taking on the Superman, and I was like, wow, look at that, he's actually acting like a businessman, deciding what people want to hear about.
Oh, I hate that movie so much.
And yet,
The other scene. Oh, I'm sorry. You were gonna say?
I'm saying, you know, the one thing they got right.
Yeah. Fair enough.
Which movie? I'm sorry, I missed it.
It was
Batman
Batman
v
v
Superman.
Superman.
Oh, Batman v Superman. Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. I hate that movie. Anyway, other scene, the other thing from this in exchange. I'm sorry. What was you gonna say? I don't want to just.
Do you hate that movie?
I do hate that movie.
Okay, all right. I just know if you got that point across.
Yeah. I also hate the director's cut. So moving on. Or back to Superman. One of the other things from that exchange with Lois I thought was great is when Clark shows up at her office, just leaning on the door, looking suave as hell. He says, "Hey, Metropolis, that's the business," or something like that. And I read that and I was just like, okay, that's funny. I wonder how long this has been going on. And the next bubble is like, I just realized I should have always been calling you this.
Oh, he's calling her boss?
No, he calls her Metropolis because she calls him Smallville.
Oh, I get it. Oh, okay. And then he's calling her Metropolis. Boy, I didn't pick up on that at all. I'm sorry. I thought the joke was that he should have been calling her boss. Okay. Yeah. I get it.
Yeah.
I read it in a hurry.
Yeah, I did too, but that one stuck out to me.
No, but that's another one of those twists that Williamson's good at, where it's like, hey, that is a good point.
and it's cute as hell, right? I mean, you know, that whole Lois and Clark banter.
Yeah.
And so it's like, you call me Smallville, yeah, but you know, you're limited by your perspective too.
Yeah, but everybody in Metropolis is Metropolis. The joke is she's calling him Smallville because he's actually from a town called Smallville.
Right.
Yeah.
Well, but it was, so I was like, I should have always been calling you that. And I was just like, the fact that like I've read the first bubble and I had this entire thought form in my head. And then by the time I read the second bubble, it explained the question of the first bubble. And I'm like, man, that's some good banter. Congratulations.
We have a pickle.
Oh, do we? I'll have to go check that out here.
All right.
A pickle?
So, Mrs. H. Sorry. Hutcher, have you seen some of the streams where Mrs. H makes a pickle based on what we're talking about?
No,
it's kind of a meme for us. It's great. It's whenever she's in chat, she often does a quick little sketch and makes a pickle of a character or something we're talking about. It goes back to a joke I made.
She doesn't actually pickle cucumbers based on the theme. I was trying.
No. She draws one.
Okay.
She's.
You remember Pickle Rick?
Yes.
All right. So.
Pickle Rick.
I made a joke about a pickle. Basically, I think it was a nod to
the spider pickle, right?
And then it was like it was a joke about Pickle Rick and the multiverse and Spider-Verse and that's a good one. That's
great. That's
top
great.
tier.
So that's
why he's freezing.
Thank you for explaining.
He's freezing the bullets. He's
freezing the bullets.
Yeah.
That's exactly right.
That means you just drew this within the last 5 minutes.
Oh, she's fast.
She's crazy fast. Yeah, she's also the artist for Forces of the Medieval Senior Year. So
or just as fast.
I love that the joke here that the S
fast.
is impossible to draw.
That just reminded me.
It's an S and a P.
It's Super Pickle. Yeah.
It's
a P at the bottom. Yeah.
I thought it was purposefully messing with the S.
I'm sorry. What is that dog? Why is there a dog?
I don't know why there's a dog there.
Or what?
That's just Twitter's doing it.
Sharing from Twitter, so it says discover more, and there's a
it's recommendations. Yeah.
Okay.
It's another Mrs. H post. So
okay, gotcha.
We'll get rid of that to distract from the adorable dog. We'll just remove that. That's how we'll do that.
It is very distracting.
It's like, why is that dog so happy? Man, my soul is black. Okay, so let's move on with the show. So we got Superman and the adorable line, and then Superman says, I'm confused about this mysterious clue from the last issue about the chain, or Project Chained, I think is what it was called. And Lois says, well, my best reporters have found nothing. And Clark says, no, don't get the Daily Planet involved. And then Lois says, don't you run a whole company? So that segues to the Supercore segment, which,
although there's no reason to not have the Daily Planet, looking into something. That's fine. Yeah, that's what they do. They're investigators.
I think the only reason that they don't is simply because it gives an excuse to go back to Supercore.
Well, you could just say they already looked into it, didn't find anything. So yeah,
there you go.
Which is pretty much what she says. Yeah,
that is true. That is true. Anyhow, so Supercore. And the crazy thing about this is Superman shows up, and I gotta read this line.
Yeah,
this mysterious scientist, unknown rando scientist, shows up, and he says, "Superman, I gotta show you something. Before the war." Before, Mr. Luthor wanted me to find a way to weaponize toxic water from water hazardous spills. But now that we're Supercore, instead, I'm close to creating a way to separate water and dangerous toxins easy and quickly. It could be a real game changer for disaster relief. And my first thought was, those are both brilliant ideas. The idea about turning toxic waste spills into weapons. I'm like, oh my goodness, the EPA would love this. And
didn't Kevin Costner already do this?
Well, yeah, sort of. I'm not sure
how to get oil out of water.
Sure how dangerous urine is, but sure.
Yeah.
And it's a Waterworld joke for all you young kids out there.
You're making a Waterworld joke. I'm making a fact that Kevin Costner actually did sponsor a machine that separates water and oil.
There you go. I didn't know that.
Hutch with the deep lore.
Yeah.
So the first thing is I thought, okay, wastewater as a weapon, that's an amazing supervillain idea. That's great. Mm-hmm. And then the fact that the scientists can then turn around and reposition this technology to then just clean up the oceans. I was like, okay, this is a really cool bit of world building texture. And it's a great way to introduce a new character on the sly that you can maybe use later for this guy that's well, yeah, I work for a mad scientist, but I'm not a terrible guy. I just need a paycheck, man. So I thought that was real fun too.
Just want to fund my research.
Somebody's got to fund my research, man.
So I can talk to dolphins.
So, the from there, not to go page by page on this, but in Supercore, they find out that Mercy, and I cannot get over Mercy not being blonde. It just bothers me. Am I the only one?
Why?
I don't know. I know that I
knew something was different.
Yeah.
I know in some of the animated versions they've gone with this interpretation of her, so I'm used to seeing different versions of Mercy. I've seen Asian Mercy, and so this one kind of was like, okay, we're doing that. All right.
Okay. And it also helps that she's a robot, but
I think she's a cyborg. It's different.
All right.
I thought she was an Amazon. I thought when they first introduced her into the DCU proper, they not only had Mercy, but they also had another one named Hope, who was African American, and they were both big Amazons or something. And I don't know. They have completely rethought her over and over and over again, every time they do her. So I don't know.
So I know in the Superman cartoon she was just butler chick, and then from there I think it was Superman, Batman, Public Enemies. I think it's
wait, that's who this is.
Chauffeur.
Yeah.
Chauffeur.
Yeah.
So I didn't say butler. So she used to be chauffeur chick. Then in Batman, I think Superman, Public Enemies, or some other animated or story along those lines. It was okay, she's going to be chauffeur, but she can't just be Lex Luthor's chauffeur. We have to give her some sort of sci-fi power. We're going to make her kind of like a cyborg. So she looks like a chauffeur most of the time, but when push comes to shove, those robot arms come out. And that's kind of I think that's the version that has stuck with DC at this point, because in Young Justice, that's the one they've got. Yep. And the comics, that's what they've got. So that's where they've settled on her.
That was what inspired me for ideas for what's her name, Miss Pennyloaf in Super Skull.
Oh, that's okay.
So I love this, the mercy in the shell comment. That's pretty amazing. Yep.
Okay, so Super Core, Mercy's there, and they've discovered a surprise, because the Super Core conceit, from a storytelling perspective, what it allows it to do is it allows Superman to kind of do some good things with something that is meant to be bad. But from a storytelling perspective, the thing that I like is the fact that because Superman is taking the helm, there's also this idea of dismantling the evil that's lurking behind every corner. And so you have an infinite amount of stories to tell of, oh, Lex had another secret project in another closet we found. Gotta solve that this week. Because it's Lex, right? He's got, behind every single drawer in his office, there's probably something that could cause problems. And so that's kind of the conceit. That's the conceit here is, we found something. We got one of Lex's super secret bad projects. Don't even know entirely what it is because it's so secret. But there's just a box.
Yep.
It's a big old box, and we don't know what's in it. So Superman, you should go check and see.
Well, and
isn't it filled with poop by now?
well, here's the thing is, we got to look up the page where they describe the box, right? Because they go to, and this is the gotta be the cringiest part of this episode was that they go to see a CG 3D hologram of Lex Luthor that is done up like a Kryptonian thing, right? And I'm just like, oh God, just ask him out already. Just
ask him out.
There's obviously Lex Luthor is in love with Superman in this version. It's just buy him dinner.
I don't interpret it that as all. I just think it's like he.
No, I'm
he's being
but it is super cringy.
He's setting himself up as basically as Superman's dad.
Yeah,
right.
I'm your daddy.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, I'm your daddy.
That's what I was saying, man.
It's so outrageous.
I was taking it to the next level. But he describes it, this box, and I'm trying to remember. He says something about it.
It's like what Doomsday was sealed in.
Right. Okay, here we go. Here's the description. It's intended to house the most dangerous people in the world indefinitely. It would keep them alive while restraining them in deep solitary confinement derived from all senses and connections with the outside world. Okay? And here's the thing from this thing that I immediately thought was just like, they just described the Phantom Zone.
Yeah.
Right?
Except that it doesn't say that they're actually in a stasis where their bodily functions are going. So don't you need to feed them? Don't, as I implied, don't they need to, also the other end? There's nothing set up about that. So it's like, if it's stasis, then you wouldn't think that you were in there at all. You wouldn't be going, oh, I've been in here ages. So,
but the thing that got me about this whole thing is it's like, okay, so Superman is incensed that it locks somebody up in a deprivation chamber like this for unknown amounts of time. But my first thought is, it's just the Phantom Zone.
But he mentions he feels bad about the Phantom Zone too.
Well, I understand that. So it's just one of those things where it's like, so the next thing in the story is that Superman and Super Corps commandos all go to break out whatever is in this thing out because Lex can't be locking people up there with any valid reason because Lex is a no good Nick. He's a ne'er-do-well. He's a scurrilous young boy. And
I'm sorry, this part really bugs me. That Superman is
we're all thinking the same thing.
Yeah, it's just, whoever he's in there, I've got to free him. No research whatsoever. No precautions.
In fairness, they did try to research.
Oh, no, it's not quite that. It was that, here, let me pull it up here. I should have had it ready.
He says, I warned everybody, and now here you go, you're free.
So,
and they did try to research. Okay. There wasn't any research available, which is one of those things where it's like, okay, Josh, I guess I'll let that slide.
Yeah.
No, what ticked me off was that he monologues to himself, Luthor does not get to be judge, jury, and executioner. And I'm thinking, but apparently you do.
Phantom Zone. Phantom Zone.
I think in some of those Superman stories, Phantom Zone criminals the original ones were in fact given trials. I know that Zod and so on, they were given trials, and Superman was off. So when Superman's putting Zod back in, he's simply just putting back in what sentence has already been carried out by, in fact, a law-giving society.
He's putting
The
him back
only
in
other
prison.
times,
Yeah.
the only other times he does it is usually when it's like out of control, like monster force of nature that I have no other way of dealing with. I'm willing to give Superman a pass on that. I'm not going to be like, you, how dare you? I guess, again, I think the problem with this story beat is a problem I have with the entire issue, which is an editing pass would allow you to add in the appropriate, because you probably only need one line or two where someone says, hey, Superman, you put people in the Phantom Zone, and then Superman says, not the same thing here.
He says that to himself.
He can address this.
But he doesn't explain why. And like, I think it needs a couple of word balloons to explain why this is different.
But my problem is that Superman is always doing this kind of thing with Lex. He'll judge him for the, taking matters into his own hands while constantly taking everything else into his own hands.
It's not the same. I'm sorry. They're not the same.
No, it's not the same, but we don't know that it's not the same because like we were forbidden from knowing that within the context.
And that's where I feel like Williamson can do a better job.
Right. Yeah. I think we're agreed on that part.
Yeah. So
I'm not against the story beat in principle. It's just one of those like, Superman is so shocked by the brutality of this punishment, right?
Yeah.
And the possible injustice, but also by the brutality of this punishment. And I'm like, it's exactly like the Phantom Zone without the spatial displacement, right?
Sure.
I mean, it has all of the traits of the Phantom Zone. So, I am not shocked by this thing. I just want to know what this dude did to get put in there, right? And and if it's explained in a way that is like justifiable and we're like, oh man, this dude is really this crazy or really this bad or really this whatever, then okay, cool, let's go ahead and play with that. But on it with this issue, I'm just like, oh, come on.
I have an art critique here. There's a design critique. And it did rub me the wrong way. So let me know if I'm way off base here.
Okay.
So I get that we're about to introduce a chain themed character. Surprise, surprise. And so chains need to be part of the overall design aesthetic. However, the way that it was chosen to be used here conflicts very strongly with what we know of Lex, and it really bothers me. So if we go back to the way this box looks, even at the very beginning when it's given to us in 3D, the box itself, I can kind of be okay with. Like, I could see Lex using some like fancy metals and stuff to make a box. But like, unless these are magical chains, why are we using padlocks? Because essentially that's kind of what we've got here. And when you go on to the next page and we see how this guy is actually, there's actually like a flathead screwdriver. Like, look at the top there. Where the chain meets his collar. That's a flathead screwdriver head. And I'm like, what? And the chains are kind of rusty. And I'm like, it's not Lex. Like, unless, like I said, this is something like a magical villain would use. Like, because like you could imagine magical chains not following, but like Lex uses tech, holograms, and lasers and stuff. Why is there literally a flathead screwdriver access point where someone has to pull out a giant flathead screwdriver? So like, I'm sorry, it doesn't work.
It's the top of the next page, not this page, but the top of the next page he's talking about. I get what he's talking about now. That little, there's a...
See that? It's a flathead screwdriver head.
Yeah. Yep. Now,
it's the Fortress of Solitude screwdriver kit.
Like, maybe copper is his weakness.
I'm not saying it ruined it all for me, but I'm having a problem here. I'm struggling. This is like, I like the aesthetic of the character. I like this chained guy's aesthetic, but I'm like, it shouldn't have been. To me, if you want a character that works like this, you need this to be more Drew, who's using some magical chains or something, and then like you can use the magical flathead screwdriver. For Lex, this looks silly. I'm sorry.
Well, and it's clearly designed to sell an action figure. That's the thing about the design that I like. I mean, I liked it.
Before we go any further, can we just go around the table here and say, who do you think this is? If it is anybody that we've known before,
At
did
first,
you have any
I thought this
expectation of
was
who it
Zod.
already is? What?
At first, I assumed it was Zod.
Okay.
I'll tell you, I don't know, I don't have any clue who it is now, but on that previous page when he first like pops his lid open and he had that tuft of red hair,
Yeah.
I'm like, oh my god, it's the real Lex.
That's what I was thinking. I was like, there's the real Lex Luthor in there all this time.
How's he been doing? We got Lex doppelgangers going everywhere. But
There's the screwdriver even more powerfully. It's like it's literally his central emblem. It's giant flathead screwdriver. Oh my gosh. And rusty chains.
It's a machine head screwdriver. It's
Do you
amazing.
think the artist was influenced by Jacob Marley?
No, I think
was thinking Edward Scissorhands.
Oh, that's a good point. I was gonna say there's a very manga aspect to this, and I'm okay with that. Like a character who's got some wildly impractical. I'm fine with it being wildly impractical. That's fine with me. At the same time, I'm like, if it's gonna be this impractical, it doesn't need to be associated with Lex Luthor. That's my issue.
Right.
It needed to be mixed. You know, like there's so many other Superman villains who could have done this, and maybe Lex put a prison on top of something that was already there. Like I could buy again. Editing pass fixes this very quickly.
Right.
There was like
this
an
ancient.
Yeah, an ancient thing, and Lex put a sci-fi tech thing on top of it. I'm okay with
that. That would actually make sense based upon the whole thing with the Undercities and the City of Tomorrow that was all from issue 3. So I mean, that would make a lot of sense with that.
Yeah, so like I said, little tweaks fix it for me, but rusty chains, flathead screwdrivers, like I said, he looks cool. I'm sorry, this looks like a cool character, and he looks. It's different than most things Superman fights. I'm okay with
the
this.
X-bolt braces. It's just those the world like giant nuts the guy had laying around.
That is funny. It's like someone went through someone's tool drawer and just pulled out random.
Superman should be like all set to slam the thing back on, I mean, just a little bit of judicious care.
I will say that
it's not like you're leaving Afghanistan here. You should actually be careful with this,
Well, I mean, that's no way to leave Afghanistan either. Let's be honest.
That's what I'm saying.
That's bad.
It's like, be ready to go. Okay, not yet.
This guy's all ready to grab onto some
his eyes glow and you can. Okay, bam, bye. This guy is super fast,
I've been noticing this about Superman in general lately. He's almost kind of like Knuckles the Echidna. He's so powerful that if you want to give him a challenge or something, they end up having to make him do some really dumb stuff, and then he just looks like an idiot.
Yeah. Well, this is about the dumbest I've seen him do. It's just. Really,
the other thing, go ahead and check the next page out. There is one thing that I am baffled by with what's supposed to be going on the next page there, Twitless. Because I don't want to start talking about it. Oh, he's muted himself. He may have stepped away.
Oh, okay.
Oh, sorry, it's me. Sorry, I was talking the whole time. Which part of the page do you want to show? Because I don't want to show too much.
Just that next page.
Right, but what part? Like top or bottom?
The bottom part of it.
Okay, yeah. I just want to show too much. So bottom of it. So like
is he hurling the chains at Mercy?
Yeah, he's throwing the chains at Mercy at the top of the page.
Or is he like telekinetically controlling them or something?
I think so. I think
it's
that's
telekinesis. He's got telekinesis.
Right. Okay. But then like the Superman's like instinctively like gonna stop it. He grabs the chains and he stops. He shoots his heat vision, and then the dude like stops the heat vision, and it's like, I don't care what kind of telekinetic powers you have, like it's heat vision. It's light, man. You don't get to just stop light.
Yeah, well, The Force Awakens.
Well, it depends on how telekinesis works.
I was gonna say,
It is energy.
Can you see the fellow? If you could see him, it's not stopping light.
I am kind of okay with him having a power that does this. It's not. This is a moment for, again, editing pastime. If Mercy was able to quickly pull up a record or some sort and say, "Wow, he's got some." Superpowers are superpowers. I'm okay with have people doing crazy things. Typically, at this point is where characters need to start giving enough, not tons of explanation, maybe a little bit at some point to kind of like, he's got super telekinesis, like It's fine. It's fine. Like the powers that people have in the DC universe, this is not the weirdest power that someone has.
Well, no, it's definitely not.
Well, okay, so here's the question. What exactly is heat vision? Do we know it's a laser?
Okay, well, we're not
Well,
opening.
do you know
we're
what-
not opening this-
Plasma,
It's
for
not a
instance, he might be
laser.
able to control that.
It's not a laser, but heat is light. And so if you can see him, he can get to him.
In Action Comics, where they crossed over with the Green Lantern Corps, Salak actually explained what it is. That it was the it's a telepathic heating up of the cells, and this was at a time when John Byrne had all his eyes did was glow, and you never saw beams coming out. And then one time he said, "Wow, these are so hot you can actually see them," And then from then on, it's just been laser beams shooting out of his eyes.
Okay.
So, yeah.
I was gonna say,
I'm okay.
like
I'm okay with
plasma,
lasers.
You could
I'm
control
okay with-
that with an electromagnetic field.
Oh my gosh. At that point, we're starting to overthink Superman's powers. That's never a good road to go down.
Okay, fair enough. We'll
I've
move
been
on.
But I love
overthinking
doing
Superman's
that.
powers my entire life.
I'm gonna pull out the famous essay that Hutch, I know you know, Man of Steel, Woman of Tissue Paper, and then it's all
that's
over.
Definitely too much. Also, so basically, Chained easily defeats Superman and traps him within the chains that are left behind, which I thought was really weird because it's just like I don't see any extra chains that he's chained with, but all of a sudden there are extra chains around. But okay, and he goes.
These are special chains, though.
These are special chains. Well, I would imagine the chains that he's using as octopus arms are also special chains.
Well, clearly these chains didn't actually do anything because he just picked them up and threw them around like toys. Seems to me the only thing that was stopping him was that helmet.
That fancy hat.
Somehow it was blocking his powers.
Well, and it had to be screwed in tight. That was the thing.
Very screwed in very tightly.
Yeah.
It's
all
I think what happened is that Superman tore the chains.
Yeah.
Which is why they're all at a fixed length, and he like pulled them together and then went wham. It's really not clear because you just see a whole bunch of metal flying, but that's why that guy has chains. Why wouldn't you take the thing off his neck? That doesn't really make any sense.
Well, because the action figure looks cooler with him. So
right, exactly. It's for the effect, not because it makes any sense.
Yeah. So then he goes up with the best dialogue in any comic ever.
So this is where I need to point out the plot hole.
Not sure if you're being sarcastic or.
I need to point out the enormous plot hole here that made me go, what? Even as it was being said.
Oh, before you hang on, there's some great stuff in the chat I've got to get to.
Oh yeah, go ahead. Yeah.
One is that he says save Peter O'Toole, which was great because the guy needs a big screwdriver to save him.
Big screwdriver.
And then Abigail asked if it was a Tim Burton design, and yes, it does look very Burton-y.
Hutch is with you on that one.
He was with that 100% on that one. Wait till you see what he did with he said Lex MacGyvered the whole trap. Wait till you see what he did with the chewing gum. So some quality commentary.
Thank you, chat. No, thank you. All right, so right. So here's the plot hole that as I was reading it, I was like, what? And so I like the conceit of the chains use your powers against you. That's fine. However, immediately Miss Graves saying, there is only one person who can free you now. And it's basically like Lex, essentially, I think, is the implication. And he's in the hospital. And I go, okay. The second you say that, it's wrong. Because even in this comic, we know that, there's like a half dozen even though they're not much, even though they've been pushed to the sides, and I'm glad they've been pushed to the sides. There's still a half dozen Kryptonians in our roster. And we established 2 pages ago that a Kryptonian could free you from this.
Mm-hmm.
Because that's how the chained guy got free, is a Kryptonian came in and saved you from the chains.
Well, why can't he just open them himself then?
No, because once you're inside of it, it uses your own powers against you. So the harder you pull, the more it resists. That part doesn't bother me.
But doesn't the Luthor programming? I mean, the computer that opened the outside, would that also control the
that's
unlocking?
That's the thing that I wondered, because so it unlocked automatically because Superman was there and he's the guy in charge of Supercorps. So
like Superman is there and he's the guy in charge of Supercorps. It should open automatically.
You should be able to say unlock, please, and click, and it's off. Yeah.
So we have a couple of problems here. Initially, A, there's that. B, there's the fact that Mercy's pretending here in this one panel that none of the rest of the DC universe exists.
Right.
And so in order, again, this needed an editing pass because
Get a Green Lantern.
You can make this work. You could say, because of the system's been broke, maybe the chain guy messes the system up as he leaves and he locks the door in a way that makes it unlockable. And then Mercy says, I can't get a signal out. Now we're really screwed.
Right.
And that you could sell me on that. That's fine. But this line as it's read seems really badly written to me. Again, this needed an editing pass to address. I think we've caught now like 3 or 4 problems that can be fixed pretty quickly. It's 5 minutes of dialogue, a couple added balloons once or twice, a tweaked word balloon here and there. The issue would read, you would have to change very little apart from, I think, a little bit of I would change the flathead screwdriver head. I'm sorry. I'm sad.
Allen wrenches or go home.
Yeah, I'm sorry, Mr. Melnikov is our artist. I like the chain guy's look, but golly day, it's too much. It's a step too far.
Well, and honestly, like if you would have put it like a hex head, like a bolt on there, it already would match the giant nuts on the dude's hands.
There you go.
Yeah,
there you go. Anyway, but editing.
I'm sorry.
Go ahead.
I've looked over the scene where all of a sudden he uses all these chains to tie up Superman, and he doesn't have a collar to unlock. There is, because the collar is still on him, tied to the other ends of those chains, and it seems like those chains should not be long enough now to even reach the center of the thing. It doesn't make sense at all that he did this to Superman with the remnants of the chains that are going to the walls. So. Yeah, I don't know. It's unlikely.
Which goes back to my point of, I think this character, I like the design aesthetic. I think if you want this character to work, he needs to have a magical origin, because magical elongating chains that can kind of add links to themselves works perfectly. And then I'm not sitting there going, why is there a flathead screwdriver? It's magic. This character's origin needed to be magical.
Well,
and also the weakness to Superman with magic, that would have worked.
So far, we don't know yet.
That's fair.
You know, because we read ahead, but we don't know yet.
Is this Mr. McSpitlek's dad?
That'd be amazing. I would 100% be behind that.
But I get these criticisms, and I think that the design aesthetic and theme work better for a magic villain than a normal science guy.
So, well, cool. Well, I think I really enjoyed it. I am definitely. I thought it was fun. It was a very quick read. I thought the character dynamics were realistic, even with the plot holes. And of course, the plot holes exist, so that Lex has an excuse to break out of jail and save Superman.
Correct.
That's why the plot holes exist. That's a story I'm excited to see. I want to see that happen. I want to see that flesh out. So, I do think there is a way around it. Well, and okay. Back to Batman v Superman, or not Batman v Superman, with Man of Steel. One of the reasons I was so and remain so unforgiving of the plot holes in Man of Steel are that the results of the plot holes are thousands of deaths.
Mm-hmm.
Right? Are absolute thousands of deaths. Right? The results of these plot holes we've yet to see. Right? But even if you tied up those plot holes, it's still going to give us the same result, because the result is moving us toward that Lex Luthor save Superman moment, right?
Mm-hmm.
That is obviously telegraphed. So that I don't think is it's not the same consequence, because I don't know. I find it easier to buy that than the fact that what's his name? I can't remember the dude's name. The 300 guy.
Frank Miller.
Snyder.
No, Zack Snyder.
That Zack Snyder was intentionally moving the plot toward killing thousands of people, right? So, with
okay,
as opposed,
Reese, I do have to spoil a little bit. So,
just wait. Don't have. All
right.
Well, we can wait, because I'm gonna kind of
do it anyway. I don't want to know.
We're going there, and then I can decide.
It's okay to listen again.
All right. I won't. You can read it.
we've already dedicated to go at least through issue 10. So
okay, all right. That's fine. I still, even if things don't play out exactly the way you foresee them, I still think you're still going to enjoy things.
Excellent. See, that's what I want to hear. That's great. I love it. Okay, so next week, issue 7. So that's
I do want to touch on the annual as well.
Yes, definitely. So, but that is it for today. It's a short stream. It's an hour, or what? Not just at an hour right now.
Perfect.
And perfect time. Guys, thanks for coming along. I have really been enjoying that. Josh Williamson, write more comics. And we will be back.
Although do more editing passes, sir, because I think you can do better than some of these moments.
Yeah.
These are valid. Hutch and everyone, Cartoonicus, me, we're all pointing out valid critiques here. They don't ruin the story completely, but
yeah. Well, and honestly, like I don't want to blame Josh for what the editor didn't catch. like those of us who are out there who do editing.
Yeah.
By the way, side note, Winnie the Pooh Demon Hunter is available from Antarctic Press this summer. I may have had a very small hand in that project. So anyway, with that though, those of us who do editing, we have a valiant and important task of keeping creatives from being stupid, and I think that's important. So I don't want to
Grant and Paul Kaminsky need to do a better job.
There you go. Just turn it up just a little bit. Pay a little attention. Don't let Josh's head get to his head, and we'll get to it. We will be back next week, more Superman, and soon, as soon as we get caught up, we are going to be hitting Comics Creators Club. I've already got 2 people interested. If you were following me on Twitter, you may already know that. And that'll be some stuff we're doing there. But per Twitter's request, we are racing toward getting caught up with Superman. So that becomes.
I'm excited.
After the monthly,
because then we can be like, "Ooh, it's coming out next week," and have that whole experience. So I can't wait to have a genuine comic book experience with multiple people.
So excellent. So we'll be at it, and we will be catching you all next time around. And until then, get out there and read some comics. I recommend James Robinson stuff before the New 52. Very choice. Have a good week, and catch y'all later.
Peace.